Peter, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Why don't you talk a little bit about AI? What's your career has led you to this spot, being involved in this space, and maybe a little bit of what excites you about it.
So we have a little bit of different take on AI because we also work with virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. So our take is we actually we have our own AI, but we're also integrated with 4 different AIs right now, and it looks like it will be 5 or 6 shortly. Um, so we are in the mental health and wellness side of a deal, and we generate exposure therapy using AI, and we generate visual, we generate the sounds, and uh, we also generate this stuff for mental wellness, where you could, create that in virtual reality or augmented reality safe space. You could add some meditation, guided meditation and such. We also have a conversational AI where we developed a program for anti-bullying, and it's basically AI will bully you until you will give a proper answers. And we're also right now in the process of integrating with AIs that actually creates a 3D world. So, the world that you could move around using, virtual reality. So I think it's pretty cool.
Cool.
The whole combination of, virtual reality, mixed reality, and AI is, I think it's very exciting. It's very, very interesting. And everything what's going on in this space between virtual reality and AI is probably like the latest and greatest and very, very, very next step.
Let's talk about the XR AI components. I know my organization, we did a little bit of a deep dive around XR and automotive, and we were ahead of the curve to the point where the hardware just really couldn't support some of the model that we were trying to implement for the business world. What are your thoughts there? Are we seeing hardware mature? Is this less sensitive for healthcare? What are your thoughts?
It's it's a little bit it the hardware could be better. Form factor, it's still kind of a, pretty heavy. These, VR headsets. So I got probably like, about 50 of them in the office. So it's still a little bit heavy. I still, I went to AWE this year in Long Beach, California. The next version is coming. Essentially, it looks like sunglasses, and it already has AI there and everything. So it's really, really cool. So current state, it's still a little heavy. It's still a little bulky. If you wear it for like, in an hour, you will feel it, especially, if you're, uh, young, middle age, adult, it's fine. But, if you're getting older, this headset, it just, a little bit too much for, what you're trying to achieve. And also, but it's definitely getting better. It's definitely getting lighter and better, and quality is getting better because the latest headsets, they already have like a 4K screens and 8K screens. That it's really, really, and the field of vision is getting bigger and better, because the first one, I think it has like a 98 degrees, 97 degrees, 98 degrees. Now it's pretty much like um, uh, twice as that. So it's definitely, it's super interesting. It's super exciting to see because um, you probably know, but the whole kind of the next phase started around 2015 with the Palmer Luckey, and the first Oculus he sold to Meta. He did, created and sold to Facebook or Meta, and yeah, but technology overall wasn't there at the time, honestly. And we had the companies in our space, right? It was immediately about like 20 plus 30 companies, were created in this space. Right now, there is probably five or six kind of companies in the space because they tried to do something. It was very exciting, but the rest of the technology wasn't there. Um, Internet speed wasn't there because it's pretty heavy assets. Like all these 360 assets, they're pretty big, so you need a kind of enough bandwidth to transfer them. Cloud storage is much cheaper. So in the old days, basically, just to store your assets will essentially bankrupt you. But and a couple other things, and availability of hardware. Right now, you could order it in Amazon, and you will get it you know next day. Worst case scenario, best case scenario, like if you order it in the morning, it will get at your door in the evening. Um, so all these things are, and overall, kind of like a society acceptance is also different right now. I don't know if you're aware, but it's about 7 to 8 million headsets are sold worldwide every year. And it's that been pretty much consistent in the last 5 years. So it's about like, 35, 40 million headsets. So it's not such an exotic thing anymore.
Becoming a lot more common, and we see so many players. To your point, I also know, Microsoft stepping away from Hololens, for example. We're also seeing some people leave the market. There's been some shifts there for sure.
Uh, a- and a perfect example is actually, sorry to interrupt, Apple Vision Pro. Like they created something that was bigger, heavier, kind of like, but I've heard this joke from somebody that people who developed it, they never actually wanted to wear it. That's how it looks like that because it was so big and so heavy. It's like try to wear it for, like 15, 20 minutes and you will be, you know, shocked how heavy it is.
Yes, exactly. It's not an all day kind of thing. But when we think about when I'm here to describe some of the XR applications in healthcare, and I know some background in that space with mental health and helping with dementia and experiences, is that kind of where you're focused, or where do you usually apply it?
We usually focus on anxiety, various forms of anxiety. So we're trying, again, dementia is a very interesting subject, and actually we're working with that, like cognitive, like short-term memory, long-term memory, and physical activities. We're getting there, but right now we're focusing mostly on various forms of anxiety. And again, statistic tells us that about between 40 and 50 million people in the U.S. suffering from a serious form of anxiety that actually requires help. And we do not provide it to the patient. We provide it to the clinicians as a tool, additional tool that they didn't have before. It's much more immersive. It's much more engaging to work with the patients in terms of exposure therapy and mental wellness.
Yeah, and I think that's where I was going to head with this. Is what I'm hearing you say is it's a complementary component to a human doing their normal job, and that's a little
Hmm.
bit of what, especially if we tie back to AI again. A lot of folks are so concerned AI is coming for all of our jobs. So, what are your thoughts on how you were talking about the XR component, but AI is a piece of all of this? Do you see that as a threat to jobs today, or do you see that as a complementary component?
Um, it's it's a loaded question. First of all, people I've been asked even recently, like where do I see the company in 10 years? And I honestly can say like I have no freaking clue. So technology is changing so much, and the technology is just growing so much. So like I can guess where we're going to be in about 6 months, much less certain in a year. 10 years, like way, like, I have no clue. Uh, but it's not a replacement simply because people, even like I'm talking to the psychologists, psychiatrists, like pretty much every day, and they're like, oh yeah, AI is hallucinating, and you you shouldn't be talking about hallucination because you know that it's not a proper term. AI is just guessing. It's not hallucinating, right? There is no hallucination in AI. It's guessing. It could be right, could be wrong, right? So, and this is why, for example, we're talking to our clinicians, to our customers, and we're telling them, if you want to do something, do it in advance. Because yes, we could generate images, we could generate sounds in about 30 seconds, but we cannot guarantee you, and nobody can guarantee you that it will be a good image, right? If you could generate an image in advance, then you could fine tune it during your session. You could say, like, include this, add this, or exclude this from the image. But to generate image on the fly, technically it's possible, but for all intensive purposes, it's very risky, especially if you're dealing with people with anxiety. So it will just, like, we were working with one of our clinicians, and he actually was, we have some partners in Israel. He was trying to create an image of Gaza with some for some PTSD patients, and AI created a Gaza and a cow in the middle of the image. Like, why? I have no idea why. I don't have an answer why AI decided to put a cow in the middle of Gaza. I mean, yeah, I simply don't have an answer.
Because like
But
you said, it's
uh,
guessing, and sometimes it guesses wrong.
absolutely, absolutely. And it could guess right, it could guess wrong. So, like, do it in advance, see what will happen. And especially, I'm talking about a gradual exposure. So, create this image, you could play with it with the patient, like, get more details from a conversation, add some details, and, remove something, and you will be fine. But to say that, oh, it's 100% reliable, it is if you understand that, it's a kind of yes, it's better than 50-50. Like, it's guessing, and it's probably, like, I would say right now it's about 75-25, 80-20, but that's still a guessing. So yeah, if you're dealing with people with anxiety, and it will, if you're afraid of spider, and it will put, instead of like one small spider, one big spider, again, why? I don't know why.
Yeah. So I think I'm hearing you say a lot is, you're looking at this year and next year, not the next decade, because there's just too much change too quickly.
Hmm.
And then a lot of this, to your point, avoid the risk, right? Don't use AI to generate something
Yeah.
on the fly. Make sure you've accommodated the mental
Yeah.
health you're trying to facilitate.
Right, right. Especially when you're dealing with mental health, like, if it's not critical, if you're not dealing people who are, have anxiety, sure, you could play around, what's a big deal, it will, could guess right, could guess wrong. But if you're dealing with people who you're trying to help as a clinician, who you're trying to kind of get better, AI guessing game, probably not your best kind of bet.
And it's kind of the risk too. You've done some work in other industries with
Hmm.
warehouses and some other
Hmm.
places. And any time you start talking about whether it's mental health or whether it be accuracy of product in inventory, if you start talking about accounting, like all of these things, you can't have guesses. It has to be the real numbers.
Right, but it's a little bit easier, for example, with inventory, right? You could ask AI in a, like, conversational format, like, what kind of inventory I have, or what kind of items I have, or what would be a good replacement for something. Again, that's a much easier guess because it's based on the real numbers, it's based on the real inventory information. So could it guess something? Could it miss some? Yes, it's possible that AI will miss something, but you're essentially using it in a much smaller scale, in a much more, just analyze the data. That is great. Analyzing data, AI is doing really well. Still could do this, could be wrong, but it's much easier. When you're talking about images or sounds, uh, yeah, that's a much bigger guess.
Because you're trying to evoke an emotion which is not a fact just by its very nature.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And again, it could be very engaging. It's like for mental wellness, it's great because you create your, safe space. You could play with it. You could apply different filters. You could add stuff. It's very engaging process. It's super good. All our clinicians are saying that, if you're trying to do it for mental wellness and you're playing with it, you could play with it for hours, and it definitely will make you feel better because you already, it's a 360 images. You could add some moving objects like, butterflies or, something, and you could put a different filters there. So it could be really, really cool. Um, but if you're talking about a more sensitive subject as, anxiety, exposure therapy, yes, this is where it's getting a little bit dicey. So that's why every time people are saying, "Oh, we got these AIs that will help people, will support people," I'm just like, I wouldn't do that
Yeah.
because you have no idea what AI is going to tell you.
That's
I
along the
mean,
lines of
yeah,
what I was going to ask is there's conversation about what if we could certify the AI to be a therapist effectively so the government wouldn't have access to the private information. I think what you're saying is there's so much risk because we don't know what it's going to say.
first of all, AI is very much breakable. If you think that and you could get information. This is why we don't store any personal information, because if you've been in this game long enough, you know that any system is breakable. It just and AI is breakable, for sure. So you could get access to anybody's personal information for sure. So don't do that part. And the other part is, um, it's a such uh, I don't think we understand what we created. We don't understand, we don't appreciate, and it will take us a really long time to figure it out. So to treat it like the easiest way to treat it is like, I got a lot of data. Let me try to figure out the data. Great. If it's getting more emotional, more personal, I wouldn't go there because we have no idea.
Yeah, no, I think that's really the risk. I've been spending time talking with a number of colleagues that have been in this space for 20 or 30 years, even, and this just happens to be this great accelerator we've hit where it's becoming very easy for us to interact with common language.
Mhm.
But to your point, even the ones who have helped build it don't really understand how it works.
I feel like, in a way, like we're like Alan Turing, right? So created a computer, and is it possible that he, in his kind of a most wild kind of imagination, uh, would see that in about 40 years, 50 years, this computer will be a size of this,
Right.
right? Or it actually, like, you will use it for as your phone, as your email. No, and that's how I feel. Is like we created something. Give us some time to figure it out. What have we created? Just don't rush. Don't judge, because it's like, oh, AI is going to destroy the world. Eh, eh.
Right. Probably not. It's more
Yeah,
likely
it's
we
kind of
will
like
than it will.
yeah, right, right, and that's why I'm saying that, if I would be betting, I would say that humans will destroy the world much faster than AI can.
Yeah.
So,
Fully agree, Peter. Well, I really appreciate the conversation and the thoughts today. If you think about maybe one exciting area, obviously you've been spending a lot of time in healthcare, you've been looking at other industries. Uh, for a positive viewpoint of taking AI and making it the best use of this thing we don't understand completely yet, what is probably your top item that you're excited about?
um, it's probably completely kind of a not what you would expect, but I think we're actually talking to one group right now. They have a project. It's called the Aging Well, and I think like cognitive, short-term memory, long-term memory, this physical fitness. I think this is where, considering that, looking at, you and I and a lot of other people, we could use a lot of help there. It's, I think it has a great potential for aging population, AI that, it will, like, for example, it will take a look at how we're exercising, or give us some tasks for our cognitive training, or memory. And I think it's uh, much easier, and it has absolutely great potential. Again, number of people who are aging, who needs it, is just staggering, and that's always going to be a problem. This problem is not going to go away. It's and we're all kind of live longer, and that's going to be an issue.
Yeah, the longevity of life definitely creates challenges when we talk about the current retirement
Hmm.
ages and Social Security and what's been put aside for insurance
Hmm.
payment. It's all complicated because in the end we got to pay for all this too.
And that's super expensive.
Yep.
That's a super, longer we live it, the more expensive it is. And if AI could actually, with virtual reality, augmented reality, AI, if that could prolong our mental fitness and physical fitness, I think that could be a great solution.
Absolutely. Well, that's great, Peter. Well, thank you for the time today.
Thank you for inviting me.